For my American watchers, I know I have a few. This is British summer in a nutshell. Lovely bright blue sky over there, and a huge blanket of dense storm clouds rolling in. And I wouldn't have it any other way. Love it. British summer in a nutshell. We all put our summer stuff on. When the sun comes out for like 5 minutes, we all go, oh yeah, let's go, the sun's coming out. We all go outside, go try and do something outside, and then the clouds come over, it starts raining again, we all go, and then we all go back inside again. And I love it. I wouldn't have it any other way. It feels so familiar when you get it. When you feel it. That awakening, that glimpse of enlightenment, that glimpse of pure consciousness, unmixed, unmanifested. It's been called many different things by many different people. You know, if you follow my channel and you're following me for some of the more spiritual content, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. It's been called many different things by many different people. Awakening, enlightenment. And I've often heard it said that you can't describe what it's like, what the feeling is like. When you get it, what does it feel like? And a lot of teachers say there's no words for it, because words are usually used to describe our objective reality, the appearance, especially the English language. It's filled with nouns and then words that act upon those nouns. It's a language designed for multiplicity. It's a language designed for splitting things up and compartmentalizing. So language is a very imperfect tool for describing things and for describing spiritual things, because in the spiritual world we're talking about things that are formless and by their very nature indescribable. And I believe that's why a lot of teachers say there's just no words that will fully describe what it feels like. Although we often hear words such as emptiness, bliss, ecstasy, stillness, inner peace, oneness, wholeness. These are all great words for it. But I thought I'd have a crack at trying to describe it in a little bit more detail. And the first thing that came to mind was that it feels so familiar. Now, I can't say that I'm permanently in that place yet. I can't. But I can say that I've experienced long periods of time in that unmistakable place of total serenity and peace. And whilst in that space, whilst in that place, I thought, this feels so familiar. And obviously once I'd started thinking, I was starting to move back into ego identification, so I didn't want to stay with that for too long. But that was the first intuition that arose about, if I was to try and describe this feeling to someone, how would I describe it? It feels familiar. It's a feeling of, oh, I thought I'd lost this feeling. You think, I remember this feeling. I remember this feeling. Is this it? This is it? This is what they were talking about? Yes, yes. When it happens, you'll know. And you go, whoa, oh, that's it. That's what it feels like. Like that? Yes, yes, that exact thing. That's it. It feels familiar. And then I thought, when I was back into ego identification, I was like, how would I, if I was to package that up, if I was to tie it up, put a nice little bow on it and give it to someone, how would I describe it? So, here is what I came to do today, to try and describe the indescribable. Can you remember when you were a child and you were at school or the equivalent of school, whatever it was for you. We've all got different backgrounds. For me, it was school. Can you remember that bright summer day, beautiful, clear blue sky? It does happen in England, I'm told. I've never actually experienced it, but it does happen sometimes. Look at this. So, bright blue sky. It did happen when I was a child. Beautiful blue sky, sun shining down, slight cool breeze just drifting through, not a strong wind, not cold, but just a cool breeze, sun shining down, clear day, and an open, empty, green field. And you're inside, looking out the window, in school, and you're looking at the clock and it's like 2 minutes to break time or lunchtime. Again, whatever it is for you might be slightly different. But they were about to let you out. Can you remember that feeling? And everyone's like itching to go, and the teacher's like, no, hold on, we've got to wait for the time. And everyone's like watching the clock. So everyone's stuck inside hot, stuffy classroom. We're looking outside at the green fields. We just cannot wait to go, get out and play. And then timer hits, they ring the bell, open the door, and we all go charging outside. Can you remember that feeling? You go running outside. The grass is crisp, clear. You can smell the cut grass. Really smell that now. The smell of the cut grass, breeze, freedom. And that grass could be anything in that moment. Anything. You could look out and think, it could be an ocean today. You're all going to pretend to be pirates. You just want to play pirates today. Or it could be a battlefield and you're all going to go play soldiers today. Or it could be someone's just brought a ball from home. There's always that one kid who brought their good ball from home, you know. The ball the school gives you is like all ratty and dog-eared. Someone's brought their own ball from home and we're all going to go play football today. Whatever the game is that you play. Now, can you remember that feeling? Don't just cognitively recall the images and the words and everything, but can you remember how that felt on a deep level inside? You can call this to mind. I call it the refeeling exercise, a rapid refeeling exercise. If you're feeling low, you're feeling sad, it's something you can do. Remember the sense memories of that time. Can you remember the smell of cut grass? Remember the smell of the summer breeze? Can you remember the feel of the sunshine on your skin? Can you remember how it felt to be running around, no pain, no tiredness? Kids have got tons of energy, just running around, sweating, just, fresh air. Can you remember that feeling? That is the feeling of freedom. Freedom. Now that feeling of freedom, that is what it feels like. It feels like being let out of school on a summer day. Playtime. Now you'd think I'm being sort of childish or infantile by saying that, but don't misunderstand what I'm trying to say here, because you remember that feeling and you think you attach and ascribe the circumstances of being a child to that feeling. But it's different than that, because what was actually happening in that moment is the school released you from the constraint of having to focus your attention in the direction that they set for you. And in the moment they let you out for break or let you out to go home, you are released from the constraint of having your attention pulled into the temporary, finite, separate world of objects. Released out into the grass, suddenly there's no constraint on your attention. You're in the world of free imagination. Image. It's got nothing to do with being a child. The only reason you feel it as a child and you don't feel it as an adult is because when you're a child you haven't been fully conditioned to be miserable as hell yet. they're doing their best, you know, that's a work in progress. You know, they are conditioning you intensely every single day when you're a child, but you're still retaining enough of that freedom. When you're young, you're still fresh out of the unmanifest world, you know. The younger you are, the fresher you are out of the unmanifest pre-birth state. I'll talk about the pre-birth state a little bit more in other videos, but you can remember it if you try hard enough. But you're fresh out of that when you're a child. And when they open those doors and you run out into the grass, you run out into playtime, you remember your natural state, which is that state of freedom, exhilaration, joy, happiness, play, frivolity, love, freedom. The reason you don't feel it now is nothing to do with your age. It's not because now my brain's aged and I don't have as much dopamine. My brain's aged, I don't have as much serotonin. My body's aged, so now I'm tight and I'm constrained. Because when you come to this state of awakening, this state of enlightenment, it's got nothing to do with your physical state. That's the most... For me, that was one of the breakthroughs. Because previously I'd been in a very scientific, brain-centric world where I thought consciousness arose in the brain. Consciousness was a product of the brain. But when I really started to wake up and realized, oh, consciousness isn't located in the body or brain, it's actually just the background, it's the space behind everything, and the Corin Bryant body-mind is just a space, is just a localization, a condensation of... It is difficult to describe. Doing my best. So, it's a whirlpool in water. The whirlpool is made of water, it's just a pattern. That's quite a good way of describing it. I'll use that today. The Corin Bryant body-mind is a pattern in consciousness, made of consciousness, but the unmixed, unmanifest consciousness can be felt when you feel freedom. As a child, you haven't been... There's like just a beginning of a whirlpool happening when you're a child. There's like vague things. You're aware of your name, you're aware of your grades, you're aware of your body and stuff, but it's not fully bound yet. You haven't been bound to the body and brain yet. But it's gonna happen. It's inevitable, kind of sad really. But it's possible to unbind, reverse that process and spin back the other way, release yourself from the whirlpool, back into the water, released from the pattern, allow the pattern to dissolve. Hello, what a lovely dog. Released from the pattern, released from the whirlpool, spin back out into the open unmanifest. And the feeling of when that happens, it's like it's been described as quite childlike, which is different from childish, but it is. It's a release from the conditioning, a release from the binding, and you're feeling free again. But it doesn't mean, you would think then that would result in a grown adult suddenly running around on the grass pretending to be a pirate. It just doesn't work like that. Because now that you're older and maturer, there's the framework in place that just continues its daily activities. But that feeling of freedom and joy is just ever present. I teach fitness classes, and I tell you, the amount of joy that I feel just teaching that class. Now that's work, and it can be hard work, but there's just a freedom to it now. Because I'm not invested in any outcome. I'm not invested in trying to come across a certain way. There's just a feeling of peace and freedom, and there's a limitless energy to it. Like I say, when you look out over the green field as a child, it can be anything. That's what's meant when... Sometimes it can be very confusing when teachers talk about unlimited consciousness, infinite consciousness. Because you think, but I feel so limited by this body. But can you remember when you looked out over the green fields and you you imagined? Could be an ocean, it could be a battlefield, it could be a football pitch, it could be anything. It's that feeling, but you don't feel like this body-mind could be anything. It doesn't kind of work like that. You don't think, well, why don't I just grow wings and fly off? It doesn't quite work like that. It's more the feeling of limitlessness. And ultimately, isn't that what's more important? Because let's say, supernaturally, you did grow wings and flew away. You still wouldn't feel free because you're still attached to the body and mind. You're believing that freedom is a state that is achieved through the body and mind. Just now, this body and mind has wings and so can fly and therefore surely feels free. It wouldn't be long until you didn't feel free anymore. It's just another constraint. Say, well, I've got these wings and I can fly, but why can't I go into space? I'm getting off track here, but you'd still be, no matter what superpowers, that if you had limitless superpowers, as long as you're attached to the body-mind and the content of the mind, you're not free. The freedom comes from the clear recognition that you are not attached to this body and mind. And if you're not enjoying this life very much, it doesn't actually matter all that much. You kind of think, well, I can always catch the next one. Like if you miss a bus, doesn't matter, I'll catch the next one. That's a lot. So I'm not going to go too much into that. But there is that sense, it's that freeing, it's that liberating, you just don't mind anymore. And you realise it's always happening. It's not like you're waiting to be happy. It's always happening. That lightness, that freedom, that joy. So that's what's happening when it happens. You are suddenly released from the constraint of your attention being fixed on objects. It's like the doors opening from school and you're allowed to just go running outside. Freedom, do whatever you like. It's just at school, it's only for 20 minutes, whereas when you're awakening and enlightened, it's permanent playtime. Have fun. And it's that good. It's that good. I don't see nearly enough spiritual motivation. Everyone's all talks very quietly, and if you express too much happiness and freedom, everyone's like, you're not being spiritual enough. To be spiritual, you need to be serious, or you need to do it in a certain way. No. Infinite expression. You're not doing enlightenment right. You can't say it. You can't talk about enlightenment. You haven't read the right book. I've read all the books. I know all the facts, and now I know all about enlightenment. And you, Mr. Corin Bryant man, you are not allowed to talk about it because I've read all the things. Would the real infinite universal consciousness please stand up? You know, we're all a bit confused here. Would the one person who's really got it please stand up? We'd be waiting a very long time because everybody would stand up. Anyway, again, I'm getting off track. So, it's going to feel so familiar to you when the sun comes back out. It will feel familiar. You will feel, that's the other thing I wanted to say. So, when you get it, you won't be confused. If you've had an experience and you thought, is that it? Was that the freedom? Was that it? If you're confused about it, it probably wasn't the feeling. It wasn't the real thing. There's no mistake when you feel it for real. When your limited consciousness rejoins the infinite consciousness, there's no mistaking it. No mistaking it. It can't be mistaken. You will know about it. You will know about it. And it's available now. Just understand that it's got nothing to do with the body and mind. It doesn't matter that you got old. Everyone's going to get old. Your happiness is not limited to the state of the body and brain. It'd be a very miserable state of affairs if it was, because we're all good for glue around here. Again, for my American listeners, I know I use a lot of English slang. I'll have to do a glossary of terms or something at some point. Freedom is unmistakable, infinite and permanent, available at any time. And it feels so good. It's the freedom. A lot of people are trying to escape the rat race, and they try to do it physically. You escape the rat race up here. Not even up here, out here. I remember I had a paper round when I was a child. And I had my little headphones in, and I would have this heavy paper bag, and I'd go around. I used to love this paper round. It took me a while to get used to it. I was very anxious at the start, very upset, but then once I got into it, I used to love doing this paper round. And there was this one day I remember, it was probably one of my early experiences of spiritual awakening. It's just I had no idea at the time, because I just thought everyone had this experience, but it turns out no, I don't think everybody does have this experience. So I feel very blessed, I feel very lucky, because I had many spiritual experiences when I was a child and adolescent. I just didn't know what was happening because I didn't have the words for it. I didn't have any influence around me that was even interested in spiritual matters. But now I know, I look back and I'm like, oh yeah, that probably was. I was probably getting there. One time I finished my paper round, and usually after finishing my paper round, I'd go running inside and want to go play on my computer console, my PlayStation. But it was a beautiful, bright, blazing summer day, and I was like, you know what? No, I'm going to throw my paper bag on, finish my paper round, and I want to go back out on my bike. And I had my MP3 player in, this little MP3. Back then they were about the size of a brick and they could hold about 12 songs. I had one of the first generations of MP3 players. 12 songs you could have, I remember. And the pop song at the time was Blue Dabba Dee Dabba Die. If you can remember that song, you're welcome. You're now going to remember, you're going to have that stuck in your head for about a week. I'm blue dabba dee dabba. Remember that? And I went back out into the sunshine with that playing, and I was sailing down this big hill. You know, everyone had one of those huge hills in their town, in their neighborhood, where you could just freewheel it. Don't even pedal, you just freewheel and go as fast as you can down the hill. Had it playing, the sun was shining, and in that moment, something happened. Everything started to shine. That's the only word that I can use to describe it. Everything shone with the same shining light. You know when there's still a little bit of water on the road surface and the sun is beating down onto it and the glare is really strong in your eyes? It was like that. Shine over everything. Everything glittered. And I felt transparent. That's the only way I probably didn't even know that word at the time, but that's how it felt, because I've thought, how do I know that the light from the sun isn't going through me? And I thought, for all intents and purposes, it is going through me. And the shine and the glistening, and there was an elation, a freedom that just rose up. And when I started to awaken and feel that, that's how it felt as an adult. Now, as an adult, I'm in quite a fair bit of chronic pain. I have anxiety. I have bouts of depression still. Not often and not severe. Just low mood, we would call it. That still happens. All the nonsense, all the grime and turmoil over the years, you know. Sadly, I spent a decade as an alcoholic. I've had to go back and revisit the emotional abuse that I suffered. I've had relationships and breakups, had jobs, lost jobs, had massive ups, huge successes and huge catastrophic failures. I've had it all. I've had it all. It's been grim at times. But upon awakening, hang on, all of that all of it is contained in a single thought. One thought. The decades of pain, strife, suffering, turmoil, even my present state of being in some chronic pain with a very uncertain future, even that's just a thought. Even that. And the shine shines on all of that. The shine shines on that one thought. That's fine. It's a life. It's a life. There was a pattern in the shape of a man who was an alcoholic, became a fitness instructor. That was a pattern. And the shine shone upon that pattern. And the shine shines upon you as well. Always. Whatever it is that you go through, you're not connected irreversibly from this. So when I say it's familiar, that's what I mean. Yes, you've been going through all of this turmoil. I bet it's been rough for you. I bet it has. I bet you've gone through sickness and pain. I bet you've been through breakups. I bet you've been through financial troubles. I bet you've been through work troubles. I bet you've been through relationship troubles. I bet you've been on a spiritual path and found the right way, the wrong way, the this, that, the up, the down. I bet you have, and yet everything was witnessed from the space of infinite universal consciousness. And when you drop the narrative, drop the story just for a moment, would you? Drop the attachment to this life. Let it go. Suddenly revealed, perfect and shining, like a shining diamond, peace, happiness, freedom. So maybe these teachers don't need to tell you exactly what it feels like, because you've felt it before. And you will feel it again. You'll know about it when you get it. And you'll get it, preferably now. The sooner the better. That's everything I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening to me, team. I hope my words are landing, are useful and helpful to you in some way. Stay blessed. Take care, be well, and stay present.